reality of today is that America is aging, and with that aging population comes an increase in needs for health care. And the ability to stay home is crucial. We're here today with a Spotlight on Business to talk to Steve Divilbiss and his staff here at Beneficial In-Home Care about their team approach to making sure you stay home.
I'm Steven Divilbiss, and I am the branch manager at Beneficial In-Home Care. I have been with Beneficial since, ironically, April Fool's Day, 2009, so 10 plus years.
Stephen spent 19 years in the home medical field, delivering oxygen at 21 years old and working his way up the ladder to region specialist. In 2009, the healthcare company he was working for moved his position out of state, which got Stephen and his brother thinking of how they could start working together. His brother was the owner and CEO of Beneficial at the time and offered to bring him into the company.
And so I took a couple months off to think about it. We were talking about starting a restaurant. It didn't quite come to fruition. And he needed a scheduling supervisor. And at the time, we decided, hey, why don't we bring me on? We want to do some other things together. So that's how it came to be. And that was in Spokane at the time.
Beneficial In-Home Care has 6 branches in central and eastern Washington. Just in the Wenatchee Valley alone, the company has 110 caregivers serving 185 clients from just a few hours a day to 24-hour care. Stephen says the youngest client they serve is 8 years old, with the oldest at 96. Regardless of age or health care needs, they provide assistance in their clients' daily lives.
It's an array of age and needs. They take them to doctor's appointments, run errands, like you mentioned, grocery shopping, maybe get their medications, take them out for walks. Depending on what the assessment is, maybe exercise is part of their assessment. So we're going to make sure they go, we've had clients who go to the YMCA for pool therapy, and so we've had caregivers take them there. And we've even had caregivers get in the water with them. And so it's an array of activities for the day is like how I like to say, whether it's in the home or outside the home, whatever they need and whatever their routine is.
Stephen says it takes a special person to become a caregiver.
And I love to share that my mother was a caregiver for, 40 plus years. She just retired this year in April at 82 years old. And she was an amazing caregiver. It is a very special kind of person, and my mother is one of the most giving people I've ever been around, and that's the type of heart it takes to be a caregiver. I always like to say, if you're getting into caregiving just to get a job, you just don't last in this industry. If you love people and you love to care for them, and then you get paid to do that, then you're going to be fantastic at this job. But it's not something you just go out, I'm going to find a job. I think I just want to be a caregiver. No, you have to have a heart for it. And that's what's so cool even about my office staff is half of them have been caregivers. And you can see the heart they have for the clients and making sure things are, taken care of for them.
Caregivers come from all sorts of backgrounds, whether a retired nurse or a young adult. Stephen says they train all their employees for nursing assisting, no matter the level of experience.
It's a huge trust factor, and that's one of the biggest things, especially when you're talking about somebody who's trying to find somebody for their mom and dad or their child, is getting someone that they can trust, because they do become part of the family. Obviously, we're a business, but when you're with those people all day long, you become really tight with them. And there's about 3 different titles they can have depending on what training they went through. They go into the homes, one-on-one care for the client, and assist them from everything from preparing meals to assisting with bathing to giving full baths. So you can go from assisting to full-on care. And you do not need experience. I think that's one of the things, as many people think you have to have a certification. We do have a training program that they go through, and they can be paid once they've completed the process while they're working as a caregiver as well. And so, the biggest thing is assisting clients with basically their activities of daily living, their general needs for the day.
Working with aging and adult care on state clients and accepting private pay along with insurance, Steven says his staff works to assess the needs to develop a care plan for each client.
And so what our case supervisors do, Nancy and Jolie being my case supervisors here, they go out and they do an assessment and they figure out what your needs are. And so we can do shifts from 2-hour shifts to 24-hour care depending on what your need is. Do you need it 7 days a week, only 1 day a week, 1 day a month? We can do that. So we're very flexible with that. Yeah, on basically what their needs are. We have clients who have what we call split shifts, where they maybe need help and assistance in the morning and then assistance in the evening.
At Beneficial In-Home Care, Steven says they work to make sure anyone looking for assistance walks away confident that they'll be taken care of.
I notice either with my staff or when I take that call is how much we do care. And whether it's us that can service them or if I have to find another company because for whatever reason, it could be an insurance situation, I will make sure we go out of our way to get them taken care of, even if it means we don't get the business. And people remember that. And I've received calls back because they remembered me doing that for them. So I guess we go the extra mile.
It's another edition of Spotlight on Business. We're here in Manson overlooking beautiful Lake Chelan today to tell a fantastic story, really. It's a story about literally rising from the ashes. Brock and Erica Lindsay survived the Carlton complex to not only thrive, but to succeed with Succession Winery. That's where we are today to find out more here on Spotlight on Business on the NCWLIFE channel.
Originally from the greater Seattle area, Erica and Brock spent time on property they owned in the Medhow to camp and vacation. A bridge builder, Brock was assigned to several projects in the region, so the couple eventually built a cabin and transitioned to living on the property full-time.
It turned out to be a nice little spot for us, and we eventually were pulled over, or I was, for a couple of projects. I used to build bridges for a living, and Erica was able to work remote, and so we rented our house out in Seattle and moved over for a while. And really, it was an amazing time. Unfortunately, when we were back in Seattle having our first baby, and thankfully we were in transition of renters, our house burned down, and our new house just was lost in the Carlton complex fire. So that provided its own challenges.
Everything fell into perspective. We needed to put our family first, and we started to rebuild. And that really motivated us and drove us to come back, and to come back with a different plan, hoping for a different life.
Not a lot of people in the Carlton complex fire had insurance, and those are really the people that suffered in that fire. We were fortunate that we had insurance, and good insurance. It was the first claim I've ever made. And that was when it really sunk in for me, was having to call the insurance company and let them know that our house had just burned down. And working through that process was long and arduous and difficult, but that was also part of the kind of the grieving process, was going, hey, we just built this. We just completed it maybe a year and a half before. It took us about a year to rebuild, and we moved back in on August 1st of 2015. And during that time, we set the wheels of motion in on the winery in Succession.
Brock and Erica say that year was the year of the unexpected.
Because in addition that year, I was in a major car wreck. We had a move, and then Moat, the company I was working for, decided on their 50th anniversary to pull the plug on the firm, along with the fire and a new baby. So all major life-changing things, and one thing in a given year, you just say that's life. It's not a woe is me moment. It's enough of a catalyst to go, hey, this is an opportunity to put family and passions first. And so we thought long and hard about what we wanted to do, and wine's always been a passion of ours, and the Valley is someplace that we loved, and Erica's got a long family history here in the Valley, and so we set the wheels in motion and grossly underestimated how much it was going to cost, but I'm glad we did, because otherwise we wouldn't have done it.
Brock started to learn about and enjoy wine when he spent some time in Italy when he was still in school, studying abroad. And then when we came out here, we would come wine tasting, and we started to find some of our favorite wineries, and started to learn more and more about wine and the process. And we said, gosh, wouldn't it be fun? Wouldn't it be fun one day, maybe when we retire? And then when that fire happened and we had this brand new little baby, that really pushed us to say, no, this is the time now. Let's do this. Why wait until we're retired? Let's do it now. It's going to be hard work. Let's put our family first. And getting to know some of the winemakers and winery owners in the area, we started talking to them saying, do you think this is a good idea? We're kind of nervous, or should we really dump everything that we have into this? Are we ready for it? And John Little of Rio Vista Wines, I'll never forget it. He told Brock, he said, you can do this. You will not fail. We will help you. And he was right. He was right. He has been such a tremendous, not only mentor, but just friend, the Littles in general. And he was the one that really pushed us. It was that last just kick that we needed. And I'm so thankful for that and for him.
The camaraderie in the wine industry in the Lake Chelan Valley lifted them up as they began their new venture. Before they knew it, they were off and running and developing their wines. So why the name Succession? The couple says they were inspired by the experience of rebuilding after the Carlton Complex fire.
When you go to name a business, we found it much more difficult than naming a child, because nobody's going to sue you if you name your kid Johnny. But you get rummy with names, and remember we were driving down the street, and I said, Erica, I remember there's a term for the ecological rebuild after a fire, and the killer of all barbettes. Erica Googles it, and she looked up, and it's called ecological succession, and also means the natural order of things. So you've got the rebirth after a fire, which is a big part of our catalyst and starting the winery and putting family and passions first. And then you've got the natural order of things, which is really important in both winemaking and in bridge building, which is what I used to do for a living. So, and most importantly, it wasn't trademarked yet. So, Erica's done a fantastic job of building our brand image, and she hand drew the logo. We had somebody come through and digitize for us with a graphic designer, but she did a great job, and I remember sketching it out, and I said, that looks pretty good. Why don't you send that over to them? And
probably on a napkin.
yeah, another napkin. We do a lot on napkins. Napkins and recipe cards. Yeah.
Brock and Erica compare winemaking to raising children. Each one is unique and requires patience and determination. It's an art and a science, they say, and with this philosophy, they've found success.
He doesn't like to talk about these things, but we've been fortunate enough to win several awards across the state in the short amount of years that we have been open and producing wine. But I think two things that I'm most proud of is he was added to the 2017 Platinum Winemaker Circle, which was really exciting for us. And then not long after that, we found out that we were being named 2018 Winery to Watch. And so those two things, I think, coupled with the awards, it's just solidified that yes, you're on the right track. You're doing the right thing. We can sit here and talk about how wonderful we think our wine is, but to have others to have others say it and say it in that kind of a way, I think is really special to us. So
I would agree. Peer recognition always is a very humbling compliment, without a doubt.
Welcome to the Spotlight on Business here on the NCWLIFE channel. I'm Eric Granstrom. Now, I'm old enough to remember the verbiage of dropping vinyl as it being regarding records and music. Vinyl today has a whole different meaning, especially when it comes to fencing, pergolas, things like that. Today on Spotlight on Business, we're going to speak with Ralph Sorensen. We're going to head up the Antioch Valley and visit with Ralph on his place where he has been doing business for quite a while here in North Central Washington, not just providing fencing, but so much more. How in the world does a guy go from building blowers in Illinois to fencing here in North Central Washington? We're going to get his story next on the Spotlight on Business.
My name is Ralph Sorensen, and I own Homestead Vinyl Products, LLC, here in Antioch, Washington.
Ralph wasn't always based in Antioch. Originally a welder in Illinois, he worked on industrial blowers before getting into the design work after he had a disc removed from his back. Ralph says his employer took a chance and trained him on the computer.
And I said, okay, how do you start this thing? I know how to do a welder really well, but I don't know a thing about this. And so the guy got me started on it, and he said, basically draw a line, draw a circle, and play with it. So I did that for about 3 or 4 hours, and I said, okay, so give me something real to draw. And he handed me a drawing that was already drawn. He said, just copy that, we'll practice that way. So in 3 weeks, I had a complete set of drawings going out to the shop for these blowers to be built that we made. And the only thing I did was I scaled my customer drawing wrong. There was a little dot in the middle of the computer screen, and I said, what's this? He goes, I don't know, what is it? So he brings it up full scale, and he said, had we built that blower to that scale, it would have been 11 miles high, 7 miles wide, and the whole blower is just really small. But he laughed, and he says, yeah, I don't care how many mistakes you make as long as you learn by them. And he was just a great guy to work with.
In 1995, Ralph and his wife visited family in Kashmir and fell in love.
The weather, the mountains, we didn't have this back in Illinois, so we have a lot of humidity back there. In fact, when we moved here, it was in January, and it was 17 below, 70 below wind chill when we were packing a moving van. So it's like, I'm clever going, I sent out 1,500 resumes for a CAD position, and I got a lot of thanks, but no thanks responses. So I basically came out here and knocked on doors and drove all over the state basically looking for work, and found a shop supervisor job in South Wenatchee.
Ralph says he was eventually laid off from his job in South Wenatchee, which ended up being a godsend, he says, because during his shift at his new job at Lowe's, a customer made him a job offer.
A gentleman came in there one day, and he said, he was asking me about all the tools, and I was explaining what this one does, what that one does, because I've worked with tools all my life. And the second time he came in, he said, okay, I'm ready to buy. And I said, okay. So he said to me, you don't seem like you fit here. And I said, I don't. What do you got in mind? And he goes, I work with vinyl. And I'm thinking, flooring? Nah, I don't want to be on my knees. So then he said he did vinyl fencing and fabricated it. And he wanted to know if I could run his computer router. And so I went over there and for an interview, and I set it up and routed with it. And he hired me on the spot. That company didn't do so well, and I worked for another fencing company for a while, and they decided, the gentleman asked me if I'd like to start my own business, and I said sure. And so I basically came here and got my business license, and got a few jobs under my belt, and started installing fencing. In fact, my wife and I both started the business. She would go out and dig holes and right along with me, carry the concrete, the whole thing. We did that for a few years, until I was able to hire people to do that, give her a little break. So
Homestead Vinyl Llc manufactures, sells, and installs vinyl fencing, as well as cedar ornamental fencing and chain link. Why Homestead Vinyl? That's a name Ralph brought from Illinois.
When I moved out here, I brought 11 live beehives with me, and I would sell the honey as Honeybee Homestead is what my label was, and I just made it up, you know, and so I didn't have the bees anymore, but I stayed with the homestead theme because I think we're a little bit rustic out here, and so I just stuck with that.
Ralph is able to do all the programming and routering for custom projects himself right at his shop in Entiat, saving his customers quite a bit of money. Ralph explains how he is able to do this process himself on his 4-bay CNC machine.
So it's basically a big cutting machine. We route all our posts here. We make all our rails here. I can do 16 rails at a time in the machine. Basically, I stack, say I'm doing a picket fence, I can stack 4 rails in each bay, and it'll route 8 rails at a time. So it'll route 2 bays at a time.
Offering a lifetime warranty on his work, Ralph says he loves how creative he can get with custom projects. He even creates custom furniture and decor from recycled fence material. We actually did this interview under a custom pergola he designed himself, with other structures sprinkled throughout his property.
It's fun. I like doing it because I can offer more custom things as well. Everybody has an idea of what they want for a fence. They see something in a magazine or something, and can you duplicate this? I think we can. You know, I mean, it's just a matter of doing the CAD work, the CAD layout first, and then writing the program for it. So, I mean, I've made Adirondack chairs. I've made a lot of different things just by playing with the machine. So. All the pergolas we do are all custom designed. Because not everybody has the same size house, not the same size deck, the porch, or whatever. And so I go out and I customize it, you know, custom design it. And I've got that trellis out there that I made. It's custom designed. I thought, well, we can bend those pieces to get them in there, and offset routes and whatever we have to do. So, yeah, I love to do it.
Ralph says he's not planning on retiring for a while because he loves the joy he can bring to his customers' homes and yards.
I love to put a fence in, say, for someone, and we get all the posts set. We maybe put the bottom rail in, and I invite them out, grab, you know, sit in your lawn chair, now watch. And as we put the panels in, it's just, they're amazed. I mean, because I've had ladies tell me, hey, I've got a yard now. I can see my flowers. I can, you know, I have dimension. And plants, flowers, things like that will just stand up against it like really, really pretty. So that puts a smile on my face.
Ralph says anyone who's interested in learning more about his business or checking out some samples of his work should give him a call and stop by his showroom in Entiat, right across from the Shell station on 97A.